So 1977, and everybody remembers that Oklahoma beats Ohio State and Uwe von Schamann makes the field goal to win, and he's saluting the crowd. And I don't think in 77 they really call that taunting. I don't know. Today would have been considered that for sure. But Coach always says, Sooners are going to win this game by 1 million. They're leading the bunch in the first half. It's one of the most iconic pictures, Uwe cheering on the Ohio State crowd. And there's Bud in Bud's jersey, prominently in the picture, and the kick would have never happened if the hold wouldn't have happened first. So what is going through your mind, Bud, when Uwe is taunting the crowd of what's now over 100,000 in Columbus?
Well, I thought he was crazy. He was crazy. He still is crazy. We had a freshman center named Mark Lucky that was pretty good. And so I felt pretty comfortable that Mark was going to get the ball back, that I was going to catch it, put it in the right spot, and Charlie Brown could kick it, which happened to be Uwe. And that's what I told him. I said, hell, Charlie Brown can kick it. Just walk up here and put it down the middle. And I will say it went about 65 yards on a 41-yard kick on that deal.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, I got a quick question for the coach. Did you thought he was a Mexican when you recruited him? What did you think I was?
Oh, you talking about me, Tony? What did I think you were? You were coon ass. Beaumont. South Park High School, Beaumont, Texas. I walked up. Yeah, I got to tell this story quick. You brought that up, I'm going to bust your ass. Okay? I walk up, blue chip list that year, 1975. We won the national championship in 74, and we're celebrating the 74-75 here on Thursday night before the opening game. We play Shirley Temple, right? And so we're going to have we play Temple. If you don't get it, I call it Shirley Temple. So anyway, we're going to have a celebration of the 74-75 national championships, and we got a lot of guys coming back. Hopefully, most of them could come back. And anyway, I'm thinking 75. We signed. Because of the 74 national championship, we signed 15 of the 19 blue chip players in the state of Texas. That's back when they had a Dallas Times-Herald. There were 19 players. They selected because it was a poll, a consensus poll of a confidential poll of the Southwest Conference coaches. They didn't want to say put their name to these players, but they just get a vote. And the players that had the most votes were Kenny King and Billy Sims. They both had 8 apiece. Then there were 7s, and there's a lot of 7s and a lot of 5s and 6s, and they're all sitting up here on the tape up here. And Bud Hebert was one of those guys, and he's from Beaumont, Texas. And so I go down to recruit him, and I went by myself. I like to go by myself a lot of times. Like JC said, I went home. I didn't have an assistant coach with me. I like to be by myself, and I like to go in and see what the mama's cooking. They know how to cook crackling bread. How many women know how crackling bread is? You know how to make crackling bread? I will tell you something. I may be in here of eating crackling bread. No, I'm telling you something. You missed out. That's about the great thing about being raised in the 40s and back in South Arkansas, hog killing time. You scald them hogs and you scrape them cracklings off that damn hog after you slit his throat and let it bleed out a while. Hey, I'm telling you, crack ain't nothing like an iron skillet of crackling bread. Well, anyway, on a wood stove. You have to turn it every 15 minutes. You cook on a wood stove, you know what I mean? Each one comes out one side. But so what happens is that, I don't know where I was going with this, but I was at that part. Okay. Oh, yeah, I go to Beaumont, Texas. I read about this guy in the newspaper on our blue chip list that run a 9.6, 9.700 and was a hell of a baseball player. And he water skied at Cypress Gardens barefooted. He's a barefooted water skier from Cypress Garden. And he's in Beaumont, Texas, but he won the state championship as a junior in the broad jump 4 feet further than anybody else. He won 25 feet, 11 and a half inches in the broad jump, nearly 26 feet, which probably placed in the Olympics. And so I go to the door and so, it's in South Park. It's a middle-class home area, kind of like, not as bad as my damn house, but it was close. It had a screen door on it, and I knock on the door, and the door opens. There's a screen between me and this guy I'm looking at, which is him right there. I said, is Bud Hebert here? He smiles. This is Coach. I'm Bud. I look at him. You're Bud? Hey, you profile people. You know, some coaches do that sometimes. A guy runs 9.6 and probably jumps 26 feet. Hey, that ain't no white boy can do that shit. But Bud Hebert did. And he came to Oklahoma, and I promised him he loved to play baseball. I promised him he could play baseball. And all of a sudden, something happens to one of our safeties in spring practice. Bud's a freshman playing baseball. He has hit now 4 consecutive home runs. 4 consecutive home runs for Enos Seymour. And I got to go over there and tell him, because Bobby Proctor wants him, because we lost our safety. You got to quit baseball, and you got to come back to spring practice for football. And I had to go do that, which he did, come back. Of course, he played 4 years for us. Went in the Hall of Fame this year down there. He held a record for 43 years of 3 interceptions against Florida State, which is better than any other bowl game. No bowl game played in the United States has had a player intercept 3 passes. But the Orange Bowl has had one, and it stood for 43 years. And so I ate their ass out the last 2 years. I called Eric Palms. I mean, I wore him out. And finally, Eric called. He says he's going in this year, Coach. Don't call me anymore, please. Don't call. But he deserved to go in. So we go down. To this year. Bud and I go to the bowl game. I told Eric Palms, I will come down there. I promise you, I'll come down there and be part of the festivities, do all with Bud and all. So I did it and had a great time, and we all enjoyed it. And we're down on the field and we were interviewed and all that. But Bud had that conference that day with all the press and the media. And some guy asked him, well, how'd you intercept 3 balls in that ball game against Florida State? Bud looked at me and said, well, hell, I was wide open. I laughed. I fell out of my chair laughing. That's Bud Hebert for you. Hey, a barefoot water skier from Cypress Gardens. But anyway, Bud, what do you got to say?
Let's go back to the baseball.
I think we were talking about the Olympics backstage, and Bud's the most likely to win the decathlon, I think, of the group.
Came down to LSU, Arkansas, Texas, and OU. And I want to play baseball also. So Coach Switzer writes a letter and says, you can play baseball at OU. So I go out my freshman year. They're playing spring football. I'm playing baseball. I'm having a pretty good season for a freshman. And he sends a little guy over to the practice, and he says, hey, Coach Switzer says you got to come over and start playing football. A bunch of guys got hurt. I said, well, you tell Coach Switzer to blah, 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 blah. I got it in writing. The guy takes off, comes back about 5 minutes later. He said, Coach Switzer said, you're on a flipping football scholarship and get your ass over there. So I went back and played football. But my quick story here, because Tinker and I were laughing, all of y'all got up and went to the restroom. There is no restroom backstage, so this is going to be quick for him and I talking about this story. So mothers want to know, are the coaches going to take care of their sons? And dads want to know, can they play? And so my mother looked at Coach Switzer and said, Coach, a lot of people say the University of Oklahoma football team has a big drug problem. You remember that, Coach Pettibone? You were there. And Coach Switzer looked right at my mother and said, no, Miss Hebert, we get all we want.
Hey, if you want it, you just get it. Hey, just like you can in Dallas and Waco and Houston. And if you want it, you can get it. We don't have a drug problem. You got to be prepared for anything they ask your ass.